Social media is killing the Democratic Party. Oh man, this article from the National Review, they definitely got it right. It is social media is killing the Democrat Party because you got stuff like TikTok where you see these crazy leftists and their views. They actually spew their views and it's turning off normal average people, which I love. So I love it. Let them continue to spew their idiocracy on the internet for people to for people to see and disagree with. So we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna cover this article. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I'll talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, again, this comes from the National Review, and they report that the Democratic Party of old was like a farmer's market, a place where a bunch of people with wildly different interests came together in a spirit of cautious cooperation. Union workers, environmentalists, feminists, professors, animal rights activists, civil rights leaders, and Hollywood glitterati could all coexist under one big political tent. It was almost like if you majored in progressivism, you had the minor in one of its sub ideologies. These desperate Democrats didn't necessarily like one another, but they tolerated the strangeness of the coalition because it won elections. Everyone knew that the path to power meant compromise, so you ignored some of the pungent aromas at the produce stands next to yours. This is similar to some of the same things that James Carville, you know, the Raging Cajun, would say. He basically said we need to kick all these people out of our tent. But that was before social media made it impossible to ignore anyone. It's Democrats who paid the price. Today, one public school teacher with a TikTok account, green hair, and a septum piercing can hijack a political movement. Facts, facts, facts. The crazies all have a voice. And all the crazies, the majority of the crazies are in the Democratic Party. I mean, look at everything that they are for. Women and men, sports, mutilating children. I could go on and on and on about the crazy stuff that the majority average American with a reasonable brain are against. 6 college students with a bullhorn and a drum can become the face of a party they don't even belong to. Ragtag speakers at a climate rally demanding the end of capitalism become stand-ins for every Democrat running for office in a red or purple district. But when you got some people speaking out, you have some, I hate to call them moderates, because people like Rahm Emanuel and Bill Maher aren't really moderates. They're just old school Democrats. When you got them coming out speaking to this nonsense that's coming out from the Democratic Party, they all get attacked. I mean, look at how they're attacking Rahm Emanuel. Even Gavin Newsom, the leftist darling, is getting attacked for saying some common sense thing. You have to stick to the crazy or they will ostracize you. In the social media era, the Democratic Coalition's Balancing Act has tipped hard towards the loudest and most ideologically rigid participants. Republicans, meanwhile, have figured out how to use this to their advantage. They don't have to paint all Democrats as radical. They just have to show the country what the very visible radicals are saying. Kick back and let the algorithm do the rest. Absolutely. This is why I cover these crazy nutcases. Consider the average voter in a swing state. Maybe people in that category aren't deeply engaged in politics. Perhaps they're just trying to keep up with their mortgage, their kids' play dates, and what's happening on The White Lotus. I've never even watched that show. I hear crazy things about it. And then they log on to Facebook, Boomer Book is what I call it, and see a viral video of a progressive activist shutting down a speaker for not using the proper pronouns. Or they see liberal neighbors lionizing a telegenic young man who shot a health insurance executive in the back, depriving his two sons of a father. I mean, that's just despicable, despicable, despicable. How they took this guy that murdered someone and turned him into a hero. This is crazy to me. What's her name? Taylor Lawrence or whatever her name is, and she basically does the same thing. It's crazy. But to those voters, this is now what the Democratic Party stands for. It is what they stand for, though. Not jobs, not healthcare, not education, but fringe cultural obsessions that alienate more people than they attract. Worse, social media doesn't just project the fringe voices outward, it gives these voices leverage to shame and silence moderates within their own coalition. That's what I was just alluding to with the Rahm Emanuel, the Bill Maher's, and now the Gavin Newsoms, even though they're not really moderates, but y'all get the point. They're tiptoeing away from the party line. But the pursuits don't want to persuade. They want to punish. Suppose you're a moderate Democrat who dares to suggest a middle ground position on anything from gender to policy, policing, sorry. You might find yourself the victim of a cancel mob from your own side before the other party even gets involved. The result is a feedback loop of political self-harm. Man, you could see the dynamic, you can see this dynamic at work recently when Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, oh yeah, I know where they're going with this, a likely 2028 Democratic presidential candidate, attended a White House meeting with President Donald Trump. A bit of bipartisan cooperation, which we all need to benefit her state, was the goal, but Whitmer found herself in what might be called a compromising position, standing in the Oval Office with press cameras at the ready. She did everything she could to downplay her presence, at one point even obscuring her face in the photo. We all see the picture where she tried to cover her face with files or whatever. That was just ridiculous. All because she couldn't be seen in the presence of Trump. This is madness. And look what they did with Bill Maher. You know, Bill Maher visited the president and had a good time and talked about it, and they chastised him for it. In today's Democratic Party, being seen as working with the Republican and especially Trump, even for the good of your state, can get you labeled a sellout by your allies. The incentives are completely backwards. Meanwhile, those with the most viral appeal accrue real power. In previous political eras, someone like Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez might have served as an energetic backbencher, important to her local district, but not a national leader. Today, thanks to her savvy social media presence, but she know how to work social media. She's drawn big crowds around the country and is even considered a potential presidential frontrunner. Please run AOC. I would love that. Despite AOC's having the worst approval rating of any Democratic politician measured by a February Gallup poll, the overly online left actually believes that the tonic for the losses of Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris is in the past decade is to run an even less qualified candidate who is significantly further to the left. That's why I said, please run her. This is like making a drunk driver do a couple of extra shots of wild turkey to calm his nerves. Then there's the elevation of mouthy neophyte David Hall to vice chairman of the National Democratic Party. He is tearing the party apart. It's crazy. The name of the top dog at the DNC is about as well known as the shortstop of the Binghamton Rumble Ponies minor league baseball team. But Hogg, a survivor of the 2018 Parkland school shooting, who gained social media fame, has announced his intention to launch primary races against vulnerable Democrats. The 25-year-old Hogg armed only with a bottomless reserve of self-regard and 1 million followers on X, has never actually run a campaign or successfully helped a candidate win a race. And yet he has gone to war with some of the biggest names in Democratic politics, such as James Carville, who dubbed Hogg, quote, contemptible little twerp, you know, the Raging Cajun. Democrats are increasingly elevating influencers instead of coalition builders. The online crowd may love it, but swing voters, not so much. All of this makes it extraordinarily difficult for Democrats to rebuild the kind of broad coalition that once delivered them national power. In a pre-algorithmic world, you could tell the union guys in Michigan not to worry about the college activists in Berkeley. Now, the union guys are seeing every sign the activists wave and every statue they pull down in real time, and they don't like it one bit. At the same time, Republicans have been thriving in the new media era. Trump, that's because we use common sense. You can't argue against common sense and reasoning and what's right. Trump rose to the presidency in part because he spoke directly to voters without the filter of the mainstream media. And once president, he was able to create an alternate reality in which his every action was perfect. He actually won the 2020 presidential election. Tariff is a beautiful word, and so on. Social media helped him to command complete control of the party and quash dissent. The old idea of big tent politics assumes a certain amount of grace, that not everyone in the party needs to agree on every cultural issue, since the goal is winning elections, not policing orthodoxy. But social media has made grace nearly impossible. Every tweet is a litmus test. Every video is a referendum. Every candidate is now held accountable for the most absurd thing said by a loudmouth stranger with a smartphone. Democrats can still win elections. Joe Biden did in 2020. But the long-term prognosis for a party that is increasingly defined by its most performative wing is not good. Hold on, I just realized that further up it said that Trump won the 2020 election. They meant the 2024 election. So let me correct that. Their brand is suffering as the extremists punish the moderates for acting like grown-ups. Until Democrats log off and tune out their own extremes, they'll keep losing voters faster than they're gaining followers. What an article. I love it. I agree with everything that was said in this article. The crazies have taken, they're not even the majority of the party, but they have taken over the party because they're the loudest and they're just turning people off. And as long as these people continue to have a voice, the crazies, and they won't call them out on their crazy stuff, the Democrats will continue to lose elections. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.